Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast is all about our journey into the woods of ourselves, getting to know who we are, and where we're going in life so that we can create the life that we want to live. It's about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. It's also about mindset. Our beliefs are such an important part of this journey. And there are so many ways for us to change our mindset so that we can more easily live a life of expansive joy. This podcast is also about going literally into the woods and spending time in nature, and how that can help us on our own personal journey of self-knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now let's get into this week's episode. Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 411. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm going to talk about something that I've been thinking about for a while and wanted to share with you. I hope this will be really helpful for you when you start planning your new adventures for the rest of the year and beyond. So the question that I hope to help you answer today is, who do you need to be for the adventures you want to have? So this is a topic I've kind of touched on in a couple of episodes, but I wanted to delve a little bit deeper and figure out a way to answer this question specifically. So the way I see it, this is not just about gaining practical knowledge so that you can have the adventures you want to have, but it's also about acquiring the adventure mindset that you need. This is more than just sports mindset. And I hate to say just sports mindset because that's a huge topic. What I'm going to be talking about today is about overcoming the fears and blocks and limiting beliefs to stretch out of your comfort zone and engage in the adventures that you want to experience. This is adventure mindset. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the practical knowledge that you might need, because that's important too. So, what are you going to learn today? We're going to talk about who you need to be for the adventures you want to have, your self-image as an adventurer, how to figure out how far you want to go with your adventures, and of course that may change over time. I'm going to talk about the practical knowledge you might need, how to build the adventure mindset that you need, and what not to do. So, this is a topic that I started thinking about a couple of weeks ago when my husband and I were looking at races to do between now and the end of the year. So we have this ultra that we signed up for originally in September, which is the Thames Path Challenge. And I was really excited to do that because I love the river and I love walking and running alongside water, and I thought it would be really beautiful. And I thought it would be easy because it's flat. However, we booked this ultra last year. It must have been around August or September of last year. And I was originally planning to walk it and he was planning to run it. And we thought, oh, it's flat. It will be easy. We went into this from a state of naivete, I don't know, like lack of experience. So I have since realized that flat routes are not easy routes, especially when it's a long distance thing like this. Flat is really rough because you're using the same muscles in the same way for an extended period of time. And I felt that earlier this year when I was doing the Downs Link and the Way South Path. Those routes aren't totally flat, but long stretches of them are flat. And so it's very monotonous for your muscles. The nice thing about normal trails is that you can go uphill, you can go downhill, you have some flat bits, but it's all mixed together. So you're using your muscles in a different way. And that makes it easier, or at least it feels easier for me. I really like having that variety on a trail. So we are planning to defer that booking for that race to next year and pick another one that's not going to be as flat. And in the meantime, we were looking for something fun to do in September. And my husband started looking at the Snowdon Ultra, and I will link to this in the show notes so you can take a look at it. So we found out about the Snowdon Ultra online. We started looking at some YouTube videos and looking at people actually running this race. There are two options for it. There's the 50-mile race and the 100-mile race. And as you can imagine, I don't know if you are in the UK, if you're not, Snowdon is, I think, the highest mountain in Wales. It's a very mountainous zone. And I don't live in highland area. I live in a lowland area, so we're used to training in lowland areas. So doing something like Snowdon would be a massive change from our normal territory and terrain, which is great. It's good. And it's good that they have two options of distances. But when we started watching the videos, two things happened. My husband fell in love with the trail and the route, and he actually signed up for it. And I was thinking, my God, this is beautiful and terrifying. So we had two very different reactions to this. And ever since then, I've been mulling it over and thinking, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? I could just go and accompany him, or I could do the 50-miler for myself. I'm totally not ready for a 100-miler this year. That's not even in consideration. But even a 50-miler of this length, of this type of terrain, would be super challenging for me. And it involves a lot of scrambling on mountain peaks, and that just scares the shit out of me. Especially if I were to come across those peaks at night. I will share some videos in the show notes, and you can take a look at them. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's really tempting, and I don't know if I'm ready for it. So I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks or few weeks kind of working on my mindset and trying to figure out who I need to be to sign up for that. Because I would like to do it, but it scares me. I'm definitely not ready for it now. So obviously, if I saw the videos and thought, no way am I going to do this, I wouldn't be considering working on my mindset and working on the skills that I need to do a race like this. I would just say, no, thank you. I will accompany you and good luck. But because it really piqued my curiosity, I'm going to do some work and see if I can get myself ready for it this year. And hopefully there will still be spaces to sign up. To give you an idea of how challenging this is, the cutoff time for the 50-miler is 24 hours and the cutoff for the 100 miles is 48 hours. That's a hugely generous cutoff time for those distances. And that's because the terrain is so challenging. So, who do you need to be for the adventures you want to have? As I said in the intro, answering this question is kind of made up of a few different pieces. So first of all, you need to know how far you want to go. Do you want to stretch outside of your comfort zone? How far do you want to stretch outside of your comfort zone? What practical knowledge do you need to be able to have this adventure? What are the fears, blocks, and limiting beliefs do you need to clear so that you can have this adventure? And how can you get the skills and mindset that you need to do the things you want to do? And a lot of this is about your self-image. So it's about who you are now and who you want to be. And I was just reflecting on last year when I was watching all of those adventure documentaries that I keep talking about that we're still watching today. Sometimes we watch TV series, but we always take breaks and have, at least once a week, we'll have an evening where we watch YouTube videos of other people's adventures, usually ultra running. So last year, when we started watching these documentaries, I was the person who couldn't run more than a half hour. And running was hard, and I thought that I was no longer a runner. I thought that I used to be a runner, but no more. And I saw these videos of people running ultra marathons, and I was thinking, my God, I would love to do that. I wonder if I could do that. I don't think I could do that. I could never do that. Maybe I could do that. Could I do that? I don't know. Nah. But I had that desire. But I didn't think I could do that because it just wasn't in my self-image. I wasn't a runner. I could only run a half an hour. And of course, if you can only run a half an hour, you're still a runner. Just because you're not running 100 miles doesn't mean that you're not a runner. But that was how I saw myself. So get an idea of what your self-image is. Who are you now? in respect to your adventures? And who do you want to be? And of course, since then, I've gone on to run a marathon, I've gone on to run 50K, 55K, and I've got 100K coming up in July. So assuming I complete that, I will have come way farther than I thought I could back last August when I thought I wasn't a runner because I was only running at 30 minutes. So my self-image has really changed. Like now I can see myself as a person who can do these things because I am doing these things. And I want to stretch myself to see if I can do even more. So next year, I would love to do a 100-miler. So we shall see. The fact that I'm even considering this or planning it or looking at races is just a massive shift in my self-image. So again, think about who you are now and who you want to be in relation to your adventures and your adventure plans. Next, it's important to know how far you want to go. So you might currently be in your comfort zone, which is like you're playing with your adventures, you're running or you're cycling or you're walking or hiking or whatever. You're comfortable, you're doing what you know how to do. It's fun, it's joyful, it just feels like playful adventure. And then sometimes, maybe every once in a while, you may find yourself in your stretch zone, which is kind of more the adventure zone. You're stretching outside of your comfort zone. You may be doing something new. You may be doing something different. And that's exciting. That's the adventure zone where you're stretching out of your comfort zone. You're doing new things. You're doing things in a different way, and you're growing as an adventurer. You're growing as a person. Because every time you stretch outside of your comfort zone in your adventures, that affects every other part of your life, and it will give you more courage and more strength and more confidence to do new things in other parts of your life. And then beyond that stretch zone, there's a frontier zone, which is where you're really pushing the boundaries. And then beyond that is the panic zone, which can lead to misadventures. And this concept of the comfort zone, stretch zone, frontier zone, and panic zone, I got from Mark Reed from Team Walking, who I will link to in the show notes. So I've done a lot of navigation courses with him and outdoor stuff. He's based up in North Yorkshire, and I've also done some online courses with him, and he's absolutely fantastic. So he introduced me to this concept of these 4 zones. Obviously, before that, from the world of coaching, I'd heard about the comfort zone and stretch zone. But I think this frontier zone and panic zone aren't talked about enough. Like, we talk about stretching outside of our comfort zone, and that's great, and that's what we want to do so we can grow. But I think we need to consider what comes beyond that, because sometimes we don't just stretch out of our comfort zone. We take a giant leap out of our comfort zone, and we can get ourselves into misadventures or difficult situations. So if tomorrow you asked me to go up to Snowdon and do this ultra, I don't think it would end well. I mean, I would be terrified to be at the top of those peaks scrambling in the middle of the night. I wouldn't be ready for it mentally, emotionally, physically, at all. I'm going to have to do work if I decide I want to do that. So when we stretch into our panic zone, we can panic and we can injure ourselves and we can cause problems for ourselves and for other people who may have to rescue us. So it's really important, I think, to stretch, but be mindful of whether you're stretching into adventure zone or panic zone, because jumping straight into panic zone's probably not going to end well. Or in the very least, it's probably not going to be enjoyable. So be aware of how far you want to go. And take it in increments. You know, maybe I won't be ready in September for this race, but maybe I will be next year, or maybe I will be ready for something else equally challenging at another time. I don't know. We'll see. But you can stretch little by little until you get to that zone. I mean, certainly this 100K race that I'm doing in July, that's a stretch out of my comfort zone. I've never run 100 kilometers. It's going to be some of the terrain I'm familiar with. It's lowland conditions. So obviously I'm familiar with that. So there are things that are going to make it easier and not panicky, but it is definitely going to be a stretch outside my comfort zone. So there's that. So think about that when you're thinking about how you're going to stretch out of your comfort zone with your adventures. Then think about the practical knowledge. What do you need to learn? So like for me with Snowdon, I don't remember the last time I was scrambling over mountain peaks, if ever. So I'm going to have to Google that, watch some videos, look at that. How do you do it? What do I need to keep in mind about, I don't know. I don't even know what I don't know. How do I place my feet? Like, how do I hold on to the rocks? Like, what do I do and what do I not do? And learning those things, even if I do it online, that's going to give me the confidence to know what I need to know if I decide to do this event. So depending on what your adventure is, think about what outdoor skills you might need. Do you need to learn bushcraft skills? Do you need to know how to stay safe in the outdoors? Do you need to know about heat and cold injuries? Do you need to know outdoor first aid? What outdoor skills do you need for this? So for me, I think it's just kind of the scrambling thing. I think it's going to be being out on a trail at night. Obviously, there won't be too much night because I think it starts quite early in the morning. We'll still be in summertime, so the days will be long. So there won't be too many hours of night for the 50 miler, but there will be some darkness. So I need to learn those things. Next, you may need some skills specific to your support. So if you're a runner, you need to know how to run in a mountainous terrain. I'm going to have to look that up. If you're going camping or backpacking or hiking, you'll need to learn those skills. Or cycling, you'll need to know skills specific to cycling, whether that's how to fix your bike if something goes wrong or I don't know. But think about what practical knowledge you need, what skills you need to learn in order to have the adventures you want to have, in order to have these new adventures that are outside of your current comfort zone. What do you need to know for the adventures that you want to have? And then look at your adventure mindset. So look at your current mindset. What are the fears, blocks, limiting beliefs that you might have about the adventures that you want to have? So what are my fears? My fears are, I'm going to get to the top of some mountain in the middle of the night. It's going to be pitch black. I'm going to be scrambling over this mountain. I'm going to slip. I'm going to fall off the mountain to a rocky death. That escalated quickly, but that's kind of a worst case scenario, is death. And it's certainly possible. I think it was 21 ultra runners were killed in terrible weather conditions in China on an ultra marathon just a couple of weeks ago. That was absolutely horrible, horrible incident. And I'm very sorry for those runners. No one goes into a race thinking they're going to die, but it's a possibility with adventure. So look at your current mindset, fears, blocks, and limiting beliefs. What other fears, blocks, and limiting beliefs do I have? I guess just being miserable, getting to those scrambling parts and hating it and being a sobbing, crying mess on my own in the middle of the mountains. And there are no runners within my sight, either before or ahead of me, and I feel like I'm all alone and I just can't handle it, and so I don't know, have a miserable time. That's another fear. Limiting beliefs, I can't do it. I'm not a mountaineer. I'm not a mountain climber. I'm not a scrambler. I'm not the kind of person who can do these things. So look at, again, think about the specific event or thing that you want to do, and then think about all the fears, blocks, and limiting beliefs that come up as you think about doing that. So that's looking at your current mindset, and obviously you need to do the work to clear those fears, blocks, and limiting beliefs. Next, you need to look at your ideal mindset. The enhancing beliefs or positive beliefs that you need to have so that you can do the things you want to do. So what do I need to believe about my ability to do Snowdon? I need to believe that I'm the kind of person who can do this. I am strong enough to do it. I am confident enough to do something like this. I have the skills. I have the peace of mind and the clarity of mind to know where to put my feet and where to grab the rock and get over these peaks. And I can do it. I think that's possibly one of the biggest overarching beliefs that we might need for something like this is I can do this type of event. I can do scary things. I can do big adventures. I can do it. So look at the enhancing beliefs that you need to do this adventure. And again, it helps when you think about the specific adventure that you want to have or event. And then think about what you need to believe and who you need to be to do those things. And as I said, you need to do the work to shift your mindset. So there are a ton of techniques out there. I talk a lot about Psyche. There's NLP, tapping, EFT. There's so many things out there. They're all acronyms. But I will link to those in the show notes and look into them. And feel free to ask me if you have any questions, because I think different people have different techniques that work for them or that they prefer. And yeah, you need to find what works for you. I have really found success with Psyche, with EFT and NLP. I did an episode with Jane Talbot a few weeks ago, several months ago. It was, no, it wasn't that long ago. It was episode 396. We talked about how to improve your sports mindset. We talked a little bit about NLP in that. So find the technique that works for you. But it's not just positive thinking. It's not just, oh, I will think that I'm the person that I need to be. Like, you need to do the work to shift these beliefs at the subconscious level in order to get the big changes. So work on your mindset. It's made a massive, massive shift for me with my running. And then finally, what not to do. And as I said earlier, don't just leap from your comfort zone into what may be your panic zone without preparing yourself, both mentally and physically, and, getting the skills that you need. Don't just say, I want to do this big thing, which is this huge thing that I've never done before, and not prepare yourself for it. We were watching this documentary about, God, I forget what it's called. I'll look for it and I'll link to it in the show notes. It was about this guy who walked across Antarctica for a charity. And obviously that was something he had never done before, but he was doing it and he totally prepared for it. And he still got into challenges and situations that he didn't even anticipate. But he really prepared for it in terms of getting the skills he needed to do that. And who knows what he did about mindset? He might not have, but he certainly prepared physically. So don't just say, I'm going to do this amazing, huge thing, and then just do it without preparing properly for it. I think that's a really important thing. So think about the adventures you want to have. And I'm not just talking about this year or next year, but like in your life, in the next few years or decades of your life. What adventures do you want to have? How far do you want to go? What things do you want to do? What things do you want to do that maybe you don't think you're capable of? What things do you want to do that you think, oh, I'm not the kind of person who does those things, but it looks like fun? Maybe make a list in your journal of all the things that you would love to do, all the adventures you would love to have, even if you think you can't do them, or even if you think you'll never do them, or even if you think you're just not the kind of person who does them. Make a list and then start working your way through them. Maybe reorder them in order of easy to hard, and then just get started on them. And the more you do this, and the more you stretch your comfort zone, the more you'll learn about your sport or adventure, the more you'll learn about yourself, the more you will stretch your mindset into believing you can do these things. And then the big scary things that you thought that you could never do, those will get closer and closer. And you'll start thinking, maybe I could do those things. Maybe I am the kind of person who could do those things. I love examining how outdoor adventures and adventure in general helps us to grow as people and helps us to grow our mindset and helps us to evolve and just develop ourselves. And I think this is such a great way of doing it. So getting the skills you need and getting your mindset in order can help you have even bigger adventures than you ever thought you might have. I really, really hope that this episode inspires you to make that list of all the things you want to do and then just start working on it and growing into the kind of person who has these adventures and then having those adventures. I would love to hear from you. Do you have any crazy adventure ideas that you think, there's no way I could do that? Drop me a line, let me know. You can email me at holly@hollyworton.com or find me online and get in touch there. I would love to hear about your adventure plans, your scary dreams, all the things you want to do. I would love to hear from you. So please get in touch and I will learn about your adventures. If you got value from this episode, I would love for you to join me on Patreon. If you head to patreon.com/HollyWharton, you can join me there. Membership starts at just $1 a month and you get exclusive access to stuff I don't share anywhere else, depending on the tier you sign up at. Thank you so much again for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. And I hope you have some fantastic adventures this week, this month, this year. Remember to visit hollyworton.com/411 for the show notes on this episode, and happy trails to you. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollyworton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.